We are CEOs, executives, educators, and professionals from all sectors of society who support the global expansion of betterment in the world through joy and Joyely. I'm your host, Cheryl Lynn, founder of the Chair of Joy Experience. Together, we have developed the World Council of Joy, and our council invites CEOs and innovators from impactful organizations to the Joyely podcast. We showcase how generous, bold, and fully engaged they are in their work and what a culture of joy is to them. Here we are again in the Joyely Studios podcast. I'm with the amazing Cody Lowry. Cody, welcome and nice to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I'm delighted to be here, and I've read a lot about you and the things you've done in your life, especially some of the adversity that you've overcome, and I think we have some parallels.
I agree. And I ditto that. I have been learning and listening and laughing along with you on many of your podcasts. So I hope that I can ask a couple of unique and new questions today. That's always my objective. So we'll see how I do. Before we get started, I just want to welcome everybody. We have the Global Joy Symposium coming up December 6th through the 10th. We have luminaries from all over the world speaking about why joy is not the conversational joy around Christmas time or birthday time, but why is it a fundamental, critical, and important conversation to have right now. So Joyly is a new word that I made up. My 30-year endeavor has been to really construct a conversation around the chair of joy, which is a very primitive, if you will, but also a very focused, neuroscientifically developed practice. So I'm excited to hopefully share that with our guest today. Hopefully Cody will be willing. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, Cody, may the schmooze be with us. Tell us Tell us a little bit about your background with the development of how Schmooze came into light.
Yeah, well, I'm a guy who should have probably fallen through the cracks, and everybody's got a story. Mine's a little unique, and everybody talks about a rags to riches story. Mine was actually a riches to rags story. My mother and father came from Detroit. There's this high school named after my grandfather in Detroit. He was the first president, Frank Cody, of Wayne State University, and he raised his children around the Fords and the Fishers in Detroit, and my mom was all part of that, and she met dear old dad at a Camp Chicopee in northern Michigan, and they were both swimming coaches. Well, everything looked like it was going in the right direction. They fell in love, they got married, they both came to Florida, and unfortunately they became alcoholics, and the rest is history. Within a 7-year period, a 7-mile radius, we moved 32 times. My dad couldn't keep his hands off himself or my mom, and, finally they separated. It was a time that, would be rough on any kid, but, when you come from, some sort of a happy life and all of a sudden you're thrown into a situation where you come home from school and you don't live there anymore. There's 32 locks on the door. I know you moved 40 times. I did my homework on you, so you got me beat. I can remember coming home from school one day with my little brother, and we didn't live there anymore. We actually lived in 2 places twice. My electric was always turned off. We ate a lot of government food. It was Spam and peanut butter. My favorite saint was St. Vincent de Paul because I knew he would be there Christmas Day for me. But Schmooze really started out right there, and I would say around age 11 when I sold papers for the Miami News. Would you buy a paper if I told you where you got your shoes, what state you were born in, how many birthdays you've had? Well, Cheryl, you couldn't pass that up. You turn around and for a nickel, you'd buy the Miami News. Well, I can tell you that from that point on, I started developing the secret sauce, if you will, the schmooze angle in life. And it worked at age 11. It worked in college. When I was going through college, it worked my first job. It worked in business. And I've had some, incredible moments. Setting up a meeting with the President of the United States, getting a baseball signed by the Pope, being the recipient of a Super Bowl ring from an NFL Hall of Fame coach, auditioning, and this is a fun one, auditioning for Saturday Night Live within a 48-hour notice, and it was quite an experience. But my book is Schmooze, What They Should Teach at Harvard Business School, and it could have been titled Joy, What They Should Teach at Harvard Business School, because as my good friend Nito Quibane, who is president of High Point University, says, today we live in the most connected society in the history of the world, and yet we are more disconnected than ever before. And so the book is about hearkening back to the good old days when we looked people in the eye and we greeted them with a smile, and we were genuine, and our lives weren't defined by how many clicks or likes we had in our digital world.
Absolutely, all that, and here you are. I heard a little stint about Kalamazoo, Michigan, so that was fun. So you obviously moved from Kalamazoo and been around the world. I think it seems like you've traveled. You have 3 children now, or probably grandchildren at this point. Am I right?
Well, you know what? You talk about joy. I actually have 4 children, and one is what they call a stepchild. She and I met at 9, fell in love. I walked her down the aisle, and we've been close ever since. She named her first child after me, which I was ecstatic about. But yeah, as far as children go, I probably could have. And in the book, if people read the book, they'll know why I auditioned for Saturday Night Live. I was on my way to Las Vegas, and I was going to headline and do all these wonderful things, and that was going to lead into sitcoms and all kinds of stuff. And people say, boy, don't you regret not going after that? And had I done that, Cheryl, I wouldn't have 11 grandchildren. And I have 11 grandchildren, all from age a year and a half all the way to 21. And they bring a lot of joy, as you know, to my life. And at the end of the day, what's better than that? I don't know. I mean, headlining a big show in Las Vegas doesn't even come close.
So I heard you say it was very troubling growing up, kind of in and out. I don't know if your mom and dad are still with us, but that is challenging and probably caused you to become this persistent schmoozing individual. So I would like to know, if there was a critical moment or a moment when you said, you know what, I either choose not having joy in my life or creating a joy-filled life. Was there something that sort of put you over the edge?
So I don't know if I defined that moment as joy, but I knew that from where I came and the things that I experienced, I had to have a positive outlook. I had to have an everyday attitude that really spread. I don't, in the book, I talk about having fun. I don't talk about having joy, but again, they're one and the same, right? And I guess living every day and trying to reach out to people, total strangers, and change their life. I was in a restaurant the other day with another couple, and I paid a compliment to the waiter, and that brought not just joy to my life, but to her. You can give them a gratuity, Cheryl, but you pay a compliment. Boy, you know what? Her name was Jennifer. Boy, Jennifer, that was really great service. And watch the smile on their face. And, as far as any turning point to your original question there, I guess it just goes back to, selling papers. And I can remember one Saturday, if you'll allow me to just back up a little bit here. My station man, I used to get 15 papers Monday through Friday. And then I'd get, on Saturday, they would give me 30 papers. And because I took great pride in selling 30 papers on Saturday, he gave me 50 papers. And he said, I think you can sell them. And I told him there was no way I was going to sell 50 papers. But in any event, he gave me the old Newt Rockney pitch, and off I went. And I walked the mall. It was probably a quarter of a mile back and forth. Miami News, latest edition, Blue Street edition. Sir, would you buy a paper if I told you where you got your shoes, what state you were born in, how many birthdays you've had? You got your shoes on your feet. You were born in the state of infancy, and you've only had one birthday the day you were born. Well, that particular Saturday, Cheryl, I can remember it was getting close to dark, and I was done. I had about 12 papers left, and I decided to go across the street to Wolfie's, which was a Jewish delicatessen, and see if I couldn't peddle the last 12 papers I had. So I walked across the street and I was walking through the parking lot and I couldn't believe what I saw. There was an older gentleman and he was selling the Sunday Miami Herald. Now, those of you out there in podcast land and know anything about the Sunday Miami Herald, it's bigger than the New York Times. It's got, 10 different sections, every advert in the world. And this guy had the Miami Heralds. They were stacked up to the awning, and he didn't even have to sell them. People were coming out and grabbing them. And here I was with the Saturday edition, the Blue Street edition of the Miami News. And it was a little more than a fish wrapper, if you want to know the truth. But anyway, I decided to, stand just opposite him about 10 feet away, and everybody that came out, I gave an enthusiastic pitch. Miami News, Blue Street edition, latest news. And I sat there pitching for probably, 20, 25 minutes. I hadn't sold one paper and I was really dead beat, and I decided I was going to go home. And as I was picking up my papers, Cheryl, a man came blowing out. He came past me. And I said, "Paper, sir, Miami News, Blue Street edition." He kept going. And I went after him. I said, "Sir, would you buy a paper if I told you where you got your shoes, what state you were born in, how many birthdays you've had?" And he turned around so quick, I thought he was going to hit me. And then he looked me up and down, and he said, "Son, how many papers do you have left?" And I said, "I have 12 papers, sir." And he said, "That's exactly how many I want. And then I want you to go home." So you look at where it all started. It started selling paper boys. And I realized that then it was, part of my life was going to really be reaching out to the less fortunate, if you will. And today I take great pride. I've got friends and family even who call me a pushover for a lot of these street people. But, if you look at the numbers, and I'm not a bleeding heart, whatever, okay? But I have great empathy and compassion for these people on the street. And 82% of them, guess what? They're hungry. They're hungry. Mm. I can't figure out who the 18% are trying to con me, right? So I give to everybody, "Oh, Cody, you're so easy," and blah, blah, blah. They're going to take that money and they're going to use it for booze. They're going to, well, good. And I don't know who that is, but I can tell you, through my life, and it's in the book, I've got 2 or 3 different stories, little vignettes of where I've been in situations and reached out to the little people. So, yeah, I think that selling papers, I may not have, lived on Easy Street growing up, but what I learned from my mother, who I call the debutante mother, who had to go to work for the first time in her life and hold 2 jobs to raise 4 kids. I mean, I think it was really a great start in life, and maybe a better start in life than some of the kids, that I grew up with, who were doctors' kids, lawyers' kids, and what have you.
Thank you for sharing that. I chuckled several times while you were talking, especially the fish paper. That made me laugh. So I feel the same way. There's oftentimes in many of the things that you've written and in the stories that you tell and in the giving of the newspaper, that you could see how your energy, your smile, your enthusiasm, your persistence, laughter, smile, all put those people at ease and gave them a sense of joy, really. So you ignited joy. You were doing what we're talking about today, which is raising the vibration of joy on the planet. And you did that through charisma, right? Through schmoozing, there's lots of different words for it. But at the end of the day, you were being human to humans. And I think that's where you are today. So my next question is, how are you changing sort of this social media paradigm where everyone is disconnected? And how are we getting all of us to be more connected so we can all have more joy together?
Well, I really think that's what the whole book is about, because I just left a position where I had, maybe 25 millennials, and was interesting. I was there for 6 years, but they walk around with their head in their phone, and they really don't greet you in the morning, and I'd scare the hell out of them. "Good morning, how you doing?" They turn around, they look at me. But when you look at the book and the things that are in the book about schmoozing, I mean, it's about a winning smile. And if I can encourage people to smile more. I mean, there's great health benefits, but in the book, I talk about my mentor, Hugh Hoffman, and he was an incredible guy. He was a Paul Bunyan type figure. He had, he was about 6'6", and he had a big head, big hands, big everything. But when he walked into the room, he had a smile on his face that would just light up any room. And so I always encourage people to smile. And just to back up a little bit on Hugh Hoffman, he had what I call Cheryl Hoffmanisms. Cody, you never lend money to a friend. It's the quickest way to lose one. Cody, when the maid comes over, I hide money in the seat. Tells me two things. One, if she's honest. Two, if she cleaned there. And, Cody, if somebody initiates the bet, don't take it. So in the book, I talk about having fun, and I would always have fun with you. I'd always like to, do a little practical joke on him. So one day I walked into his office. He was a confirmed bachelor. He was married one time, I think, for 5 minutes, and he couldn't stand it. He had to be in total control at all times, including his new son-in-laws that he really didn't care for. But in any event, I walked into his office one day, and he would buy a Cadillac every year, right? He was really a father figure to my brother and I, but he'd buy a Cadillac every year, and I walked into his office, and he comes out, he's all excited. He says, Cody, he says, I'll give you 1 minute. He says, I'll bet you can't find the horn on my Cadillac. And he says, and let me tell you something, 5 people have already lost today. Now, remembering the great advice that he had given me probably a year prior, I immediately changed the subject, and you talk about ADD, he was off doing something else, right? And I went out to his front office, and I called Connor Brown Cadillac. I got a salesman on the phone, and I said, let me ask you a question. Where's the horn on the new Cadillac? He said, all you do is just squeeze the steering wheel. I said, really? So now here comes Hoffman. He comes out, and I've got to remind him about the bet. I said, hey, Hoffman, what was that bet again about the Cadillac? And yeah. Now he's getting excited again because he's got a pigeon, right? And he says, I'll bet you $1. He says, you can't find the horn on my new Cadillac, and I'll give you 1 minute to do it. And I went, you're on, like that. And so out we go outside, and he is like a kid, Cheryl. He's got his watch on there. He's a big guy, and I'm sitting in the car, and he's looking down. Now, don't go. You would have thought this was a NASA launch or something, right? Okay, I'll tell you when to go. 1, 2, 3, go. He goes, he said, son of a you-know-what. I can't believe, I should have known. You're a smart kid, but in the book, I talk about having fun, and I had fun with Hoffman, and it's about smiling. I think it's about reaching out to, the less fortunate, regardless of class. But I think the most important thing about being genuine, and in the book, Cheryl, I've redefined the word schmooze, and for some it takes on a negative connotation. But for me, it's all about being genuine. It's about being real. It's about who you are. And I think it's developing a place in life where you're really comfortable in your own skin. I think that probably sums it up.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Can you tell me one quick story about the Barnes & Noble experience or the book signing and the person who had the most schmooze with you at the table?
So the most schmooze at the table was, and little old lady, but a beautiful lady. And she had already read the book, and she was buying 3 books for her, I think, great-grandchildren, tell you the truth. But when I went and I did some research, and I mentioned this earlier about, the common thread with joy and schmooze. I mean, if you asked 100 people about Cody Lowry and what's he all about, and they would say that he has fun, and I have fun every day. I went to Publix. Those of you in the Southeast know what Publix is. It seems like during COVID I spent my life at Publix. But I mean, I have fun meeting the strangers. I have fun with the checkout people. I have fun with the guy and I just have fun, and I kind of think a lot of times I get lucky and make their day.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Do you mind if we went to the Chair of Joy experience really quick?
I would love that.
So I'm going to take myself out of the camera because I would like to hear you describe your chair of joy. So before you say anything, think about your house, think about the room in your house that you like to get away to, and think about the chair in that room that you like to sit in. And I would love it if you would describe your chair of joy with us.
Well, what I ought to do first is share my couch story, because that's a real good one, and it ties into the book about laughing at yourself. If you'll indulge me for just a minute here, I thought I had reached this point in life where I had that chair. It was a green suede couch, and I was very proud of that green suede couch. And I came in one day and there was a big stain on the couch, and I couldn't believe it. And I called my three kids up from downstairs. Cody, Chelsea, get up here right now. And they came up, they didn't know what happened. Thought maybe somebody died. And my oldest son, he goes, what's up? What's wrong? I said, look at this stain. I want to know who did it. I want to know now, and I want the truth. And he looked at me. He said, Dad, you can't handle the truth. And all of a sudden, he diffused me as I was thinking about that couch and how to get the stain off, and how the stain happens is a long story. But when I think about, that chair that you speak of, and in the book I talk about it, we have to appreciate what we have in life and what we've been given. I tell my kids, and I told somebody just the other day who had their chin in their chest. They were upset about something, and I told them, as I told my children when they were growing up, I said, look, you have it better than 99.9% of all the people that have ever lived on the face of the earth. And, my favorite quote is a Japanese proverb. It's all about falling down 7 times, getting up 8. When I look at the things that I've been through in my life, and the rejection early on that I've had, and some of the crazy things in business where I had my first business partner took me for about $400,000. And, as bad as that was, we can always pick ourselves up and my favorite word, and people will tell you, is charge. Let's charge, And so when I sit in that chair and I look around, and there's some material things that are nice. It's nice that I'm able to play golf occasionally. It's nice that I can travel occasionally. But it's the smaller things in life that give me great joy, as we talked about my grandchildren, my children, my friends who seem to be doing well. So I think it's the little things and not so much the big things.
Thank you for that. I actually listened to the story of the why there was the stain on the couch. So that was really interesting. I'm happy that you told it, and I encourage everyone to go to the book to read that story. The question I have is, where physically is your chair of joy? So I heard the couch, but what chair would you coin your chair of joy? Is it a recliner? Is it a chair in the office? Where would you actually go and take a few minutes just to sit? Just real briefly. I don't have to have all the details.
Yeah, so it would be in my bedroom.
Bedroom, okay.
Guest bedroom now, and it's a big old leather chair with ottoman, and it looks like it belongs in some attorney's office, and it's
beautiful.
But
all right, beautiful.
It was kind of an antique when I bought it, and it's more of an antique today.
Cool. All right. So I have about 5 questions, and I just want to get through this with you quick. So my next question is, when you're sitting in your beautiful attorney's chair in your bedroom, I want you to just visualize yourself there for just a minute and put both feet on the ground. You can do that with me right now. Put both feet on the ground and just take a deep breath. And I'm just going to guide you for a minute. So if you could tell me what one thing you see while you're sitting in that chair, what do you physically see? Is there a picture on the wall, or what do you see? Just one thing.
So I see the future, and I'm retired, but I always tell people, when you're green, you're growing. When you're ripe, you're rot. And in the book, I talk about actually sitting down with a billionaire who he asked me when I was going to retire, and I said, I want to stay relevant. I want to stay in the game. and he got it. And so I look at the future. You look, Grandma Moses didn't start painting till she was 75.
Oh, I
And
love that
so,
story.
we have, and today the largest growing segment demographic is centurions. Okay, so we're all healthier, we're exercising, we're living longer. So to go ahead and throw my hat on the coat rack and sit down and go, I always tell people, I said, I tell people that are retiring or want to retire or are retired, that for me it'd be like waiting to die,
Yeah.
because what is there if you don't have the future, and what is it if you don't have your dreams? And from where I came from, it's ensconced in me. I mean, I dream a lot. I think about different things, and that I won't share with you now, but it was yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. No one has ever said they see the future. They usually say the laundry basket or the ironing board. But if one thing that you can hear, so I'm just trying to get you to grounded. You're sitting there, your feet are on the ground. You're sitting in your beautiful chair of joy. What is one thing that you hear, just physically hear? Plane going overhead? Physically hear.
Right now, I hear the fan in the background that I think you can see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So again, I just want to remind people that are listening to this for the first time, we had Cody sit down. He's sitting in his beautiful chair, thinking about the future, seeing the future, hearing the fan, and taking a deep breath. And one of the things that I think that makes us so social media focused and less connected is all these thoughts that are continuously going through our brains. And so as we're sitting there, we're just kind of letting the thoughts kind of really, I liken them to fish kind of jumping out of the water, just letting them kind of swim around in the ocean. I would love it if you could, Cody, take a deep breath, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And I want you to see if you can tap into one of your most joyful memories ever. For it could have been this morning, could have been when you were a young man, but one of the most joyful memories ever.
Well, this is an easy question, because it was when my first son was born, Cody Jr. And Phyllis and I were, I'm going to back up just a little, because this is really funny. We were married, I don't know, 3 months, and we're having dinner or something, and just out of the clear blue, she goes, "There must be something wrong with you." And I said, "What's wrong with me?" She goes, "Well, I'm not pregnant." And I said, "Well, maybe there's something wrong with you, right?" And right on the heels of that, we had 3 kids, bingo, bango, bongo, in less than 3 years. And I think it was Cody when he was born. We, as I told you on the front end, we lived in Lakeland, but he was going to be delivered in St. Joe's Hospital in Tampa, and I was struggling. I had an old Continental, and all of a sudden, it's the middle of the night, and she's ready, and I got to get her in there, and now we've got to drive 30 miles, and I've got many people out there don't remember CBs, breaker 19, and I'm going down I-4, breaker 19, got one in the belly, and I'm talking to truck drivers and everything. And I get to the hospital, and Cody's going to be premature. And he weighed not quite 5 pounds. And when they brought him out, I was really struggling. I mean, I had tears in my eyes, tears of joy. And yet I couldn't believe how little this baby was. And, and he stayed in the ICU or for about 2 weeks. And you know what I did? I made it a point to make sure that all the nurses knew who little Cody Lowry was. And I would send pizza over there. I came in one day, and they have the little cradles they're all in, and Cody's got balloons on his, So, but I would say, my first child, and then not to take away from Chelsea or Kip, because it was I would say equal joy, but Cody was the first.
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Say hello to Cody next time you see him. That was a beautiful story, and the others as well. So one more deep breath, and just I want to make sure we have enough time for my next 4 questions. So One more
Be
deep
brief.
breath, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Would love to hear one more short story of another joyful moment when things were just really cool. They really felt good for you. Just one quick story, couple sentences if you can. What was the moment?
Yeah. Well, it was probably one of my business successes, and it was when I went up against some pretty big agencies, Saatchi and Saatchi. You might remember that name, and then there were other regional agencies that were competing for a piece of business. I was invited up. I didn't even know we were making a presentation for the account, and I was invited up to have dinner with a bunch of Toyota dealers, and had a good time. And then one of them. In the course of the evening, he said, well, who'd you bring with you? And I thought that was a very strange question, because I thought I was up there to just have a little meeting. Well, there was a major presentation in the morning, and they were pitching for this account in Charlotte, North Carolina, all of the Toyota dealers. There were 10 of them. And I was the last one to go on of the 5 agencies, and I won the business. And it's
Yay.
kind of a great story about how that all happened. And if they read the book, I think they'll enjoy the story.
Great. So to finish that story, please, everybody, go buy the book, Schmooze, by Cody. So let's to finish this. So that the 2 memories of joy were Cody and really all the kids being born. So just let those moments kind of flush from your head to your toe and feel the resonation of the joy rising in your body. And the second beautiful memory, I can just see you talking with Toyota executives, and they probably had no other thought but to say, yes, I am sure. So kind of let those 2 moments kind of resonate through your entire body. And I would love it if you could, you're going to answer me with one word now. I don't know if this is possible here, Cody, but I would like you to answer me with one word. What is the essence of those 2 memories? If you could give those 2 memories, the kids and the business, one word, what would you say?
Happiness.
All right. And so if you could put happiness in some kind of container, something that is physical, what would that container be?
Surrounded by my family. It would be a family container.
I love it. You are a family man, I can tell. And you and me are going to go on a trip, and we're going to take this entire family of container. Let's put it in a big bowl or something. And we're flying to LaGuardia. We're getting off the airport, and there's thousands of people waiting for you to come down and give them your a speech, your say hello speech, your welcome speech. And they want to know what it is, this magic formula that you have called happiness that's in this container, this family, this joy that you speak of. They don't get it. They're fast. They're moving. Their heads are down. They're social media. They're not connecting. What would you say to them?
Yeah, baby. I get their attention right off the bat, which is what I do every day. We just had, I don't know if you read the book, but doing the stand-up comedy, I did all these impressions. But for the young kids that came over to our house and we had it all fixed up, I was the Wicked Witch. Oh, give me those slippers, you. So, I would get their attention right off the bat, and they go, oh, and then hopefully I put a smile on their face.
And furthermore, just curious, because I love that you got their attention, but now they're listening. They're really listening, and they want a piece of your action. What could you share with them so that they really get it, which is really our listening audience as well? What can we really learn and value from your wisdom from being on this planet?
Well, I would say first and foremost, and if you read the book, it's about being persistent. And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now, Cheryl, if I hadn't been persistent in my early life and my business life. And I've overcome a lot of obstacles by, sticking with it. And I think it is persistence.
I love that. And so I am curious, all of us go to bed or have fear in our lives, and we choose. Dr. Wilder says you go to bed with either fear or joy in your life. How did you get through the fear during all those years and wake up in the morning going, I'm ready to do this again? What was your trick?
Because just going back to the quote that I used to tell my kids, you have it better than 99.9% of everything that everybody in the world has. And I can remember my sister calling me one day, and this is when I had a business partner early on, take me for some money. And she called me, and I was in a good mood. And there was, as I was sitting at a light, I was waiting longer than the changing of the light, because there was a man going by being pushed in a wheelchair. And I was talking to my older sister, and she goes, "Why are you in such a good mood? I mean, you just lost $400,000." And I said, "Mimi, I'm going to get over this. That's a money deal, and and there's people that have a lot worse than I do, and I know that."
That's really interesting, because I think most of us spend our life getting to that fame that maybe you started out with, but since you knew it and you experienced it, life just became, I think, a much simpler bed of roses, in my opinion. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that feels like, man, if we could all have the opportunity to maybe hit the dust a little bit faster, we might be able to see what's on the other side. The light is probably a little bit brighter if we can be more grateful. And as you say in your last chapter, appreciate the heck out of everything around us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on.
I like to be spot on. Well, that was good. So what can we leave everyone with about Schmooze, where to find you, how to find you, why to find you? Are you speaking? What can we do for you, sir?
Yeah, I obviously the book is available wherever books are sold, and it looks like most of them. The foot traffic seems to be a bit down at the traditional stores, but on Amazon you can get the book. I actually did the audio for the book. I can remember when this group out of New York they actually gave us a bonus if they could do it, and we said yes. And they said they have their own talent that is going to do the audio, and I told our publisher that was not something that was going to happen. And through about 3 or 4 weeks of going back and forth, they decided to acquiesce, and I did the audio. And nobody can tell your story better than you. Nobody can tell your story, Cheryl, better than you, and nobody could tell Schmooze better than I could. So my website is MrSchmooze.com, and that's MrSchmooze.com. Yeah, there's a lot of places I'm going. I don't think I'm going to run into too many of your listeners, but I'm looking forward to really keeping up with you and the kinds of things that you're doing, and I hope people do get a chance to read Schmooze, because it's a great book. It's fun. It's quick. People ask me why it's quick, and I tell them I don't have a big vocabulary. It's inspirational and a lot of self-help.
They better go listen to Philbert, because you have not lived unless you hear the Philbert story. So let's save that one. Let's save that one.
Oh my God, you've done your homework.
Just give me one sentence of Philbert.
Fabulous Philbert here, friends. Yes, for national auto sales and not to be outdone by our competitors, we're having our own tag sale. It's Philbert's fuchsia, turquoise, and lime green tag sale.
Yeah, so
that gives me so many marketing ideas for the Chair of Joy. You have no idea. So my biggest takeaway today, Cody, was just actually hearing your heart. I mean, I loved hearing how passionate you are for all people, right? Not just the people you're doing business with, but for every human that wants to be seen and heard, no matter where they are, what their status quo is in life, what color, race, creed, it doesn't matter. People are people, and they all yearn for joy, and they all love to meet people like you. So what was your biggest takeaway, Cody?
My biggest takeaway is you've got a fantastic podcast, and I'm gonna, Cheryl Lynn, I'm gonna follow you now. I will be very frank. I didn't know who you were 2 weeks ago, but now I know, and I think because of our alliance, Schmooze, Joy. I mean, there's a lot of common ground there. So I'm looking forward to following you, Cheryl Lynn.
Well, good luck keeping up. I am on stages all over the place. We have symposiums where we're bringing the chair to a city near you. So we will be sure to have you, Cody. So everyone who's listening, what we did today was take Cody through the Chair of Joy. He shared some extraordinary experiences from his life and how he shows up as a joyful human being, and that it wasn't always that easy, right? You have to work at it. And our formula is 3 things. You have to access joy, and a lot of people don't know that it's easy to access joy. It's really at our fingertips. All we have to do is sit still in our Chair of Joy. And Cody told us about his Chair of Joy in the guest bedroom, the beautiful chair that he sits in now 3 times a day, because it's that powerful. And then also to sustain joy, that you can actually wake up every day and keep joy in your life. Just a real quick story. I met a gentleman yesterday. His son of 37 years old passed away on a motorcycle accident. And he of course, was devastated, yet he was driving a 1977 Corvette. And I saw him sitting there and I said, tell me the story about this Corvette. And he said, my young son died this past year. And all the while through his life, he always knew that I loved Corvettes and that one day he wanted to get me a Corvette. So he passed away before the fund was filled. So I did have a life insurance policy on him and there was a little money left over at the end. And he said, and now I sit in my chair of joy in the Corvette that was that we purchased in honor of my son. So the point is that there is joy no matter what's happening in our life. We will weave in and out of depression and sadness and anger and, heartache, beyond sometimes imaginable. But luckily that makes us humans and we get to have the human experience every day, all day long. So once again, Cody, thank you for being here in the Joyely Studios today.
It's been a delight. Thank you, Cheryl.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.